So a lot of people have been asking me what my warrior build is. So in this video I'm going to cover the basics of my warrior build, being the armor, the traits, and the general playstyle of it. To start off, let's go in and look at my gear. So the first thing to note about my gear and just the general playstyle is this is a full Berserker build. I'm using 100% Berserker. So I'm using power, precision, crit damage on everything. The armor, the attachments, all these, power, precision, critical damage, my weapons, and even my trinkets. Now, this is not all ascended yet, as my warrior has not been level 80 for too awfully long. I will be upgrading the necklace next to an ascended Berserker amulet. The rings will come whenever I get around to doing fractals again, and the back piece will probably stay that way as an exotic for quite some time until I can find the money to pay for an exotic piece again. Now let's go into the traits. My points are 20, 25, 0, 10, 15. Let's go over what each of them do though. So this first point in strength does damage at the end of a dodge roll. When the dodge itself quits making you invulnerable, it does damage at the end. This does not hit too awfully high. I think it can hit with a crit anywhere from 2 to 3,000. It's not too awfully much, but it's something to keep in mind. Berserker's power here is a huge part of the build. Increased damage based on how much adrenaline you have built. So based on how much your bar is filled down here, it's going to affect how much extra damage you get. Stage 1 is 3%, Stage 2 is 7%, Stage 3 is 12%. Because of this, we're going to be keeping our adrenaline up at Stage 3 nearly the entire time for the maximum damage output. Building momentum has burst skills, restore endurance. Because we're keeping our adrenaline up constantly, we will not be using our burst skills very much, so this is almost a wasted trait, but it's fine, as the real reason is we're going this far and is for slashing power, which allows our greatsword to be increased by 10%. We'll be using a lot of greatsword, and then the other main weapon set I use is dual axes, and I'll go over that in a bit. Now, in the arms tree, we have precise strikes. We have a 33% chance to cause bleeding on critical hits. Now, at first, you might think, well, this is just something that we have, it's not that important. But later on, you'll see that this is actually very, very important. So we need to have a high critical chance, so we're constantly getting these bleeds. Next here is rendering strikes. We have a 33% chance to cause vulnerability on critical hits. Again, we'll be critting a lot, so that this should stack up fairly well. Critical burst skills have a 10% increased critical chance. We're keeping our adrenaline up and not using burst skills, so again, this will not be used very often. And then forceful greatsword, we gain might on a critical hit with a greatsword or a spear. Greatsword and spear skill recharge 20% faster. Because we're using greatsword a lot, this is a huge part of the build. With this, and for great justice, we will be able to stack around 20 stacks of might on ourselves continuously. When things are down, it'll go to around maybe 8 to 10 stacks of might, but we'll be able to get it back up again very shortly when cooldowns are off. Next is attack of opportunity. Increases damage to bleeding foes by 10%. Remember how I said earlier that bleeding didn't seem that important? Well, this is where it's important. We get 10% extra damage nearly constantly because we're going to be constantly making our enemies bleed. The bleeding itself will not be doing a lot of damage, but because they're bleeding, we will be doing a lot of damage with our normal attacks. Now, because I said this is a 100% Berserker build, you're probably wondering why I have 10 in tactics here. Well, let's get into that. Determined Revival. Gain 5 extra toughness per level when reviving. Not too awfully important. Since we have no toughness, it's nice, but that's not the reason why we're going into this tree. The real reason is because we're trying to get empowered here. This increases damage for every boon on us. This is not stackable boons, this is unique boons. So, for example, if I use 4 Great Justice here, I have 3 stacks of might. I'm only going to get extra power from Fury and Might here. This is going to be 2 unique boons, not 4. With Empowered, it's 2% extra damage per unique boon. So just using 4 Great Justice is 4% extra damage. Not to mention all the other boons you're going to be getting from the rest of your party if you are in a party. In Discipline here, we get a Versatile Rage. We gain 5 strikes of Adrenaline on weapon swap. This is okay, but we are not going to be using our Adrenaline very often, so we're not going to see this too awfully much, at least not in the middle of a fight, maybe in the beginning. Heightened Focus. Gain a 2% critical chance for Stage 1 of Adrenaline, 5% for Stage 2, and 9% for Stage 3. Again, this is why we're keeping Adrenaline not used for the majority of the fight. Between Heightened Focus and Berserker's Power, it's just better if we do not use our burst skills to keep that Adrenaline up. And Fast Hands. Weapon swapping recharges 5 seconds faster. Because of this, we're going to be switching between our Greatsword and our Dual Axes basically anytime 100 Blades is down. If 100 Blades is going to be coming back up soon, then we're going to switch back and start using it again. Now, I said we're not going to be using our burst skills much. There is one thing I can think of where you would actually be using it more often than not. And that is if you're in the middle of a fight and you believe that you are in no danger of dying. For example, maybe when you're fighting Subject Alpha. If you know his attacks very well, his basic attacks do very, very little damage. It's his big burst, and if you can dodge that, then you're really in no danger of dying, and you don't really need to worry about your heal skill so much. So we would be able to use Healing Surge here, and we would get all of our Adrenaline back the moment we use our burst. So we'd use our burst skill, and then immediately use Healing Surge to get all of that Adrenaline back immediately. It's so you can get a little extra damage off with your burst skills, but it's not going to be happening very often, as because we're so squishy because of our full Berserker build, having that Healing Surge ready is fairly important. And having Adrenaline all the way up so we get a full heal, that full 8,440 heal in my case, that's pretty important to have up. So let's go over our utility skills then. I did just say we are going to be using Healing Surge for reasons I just mentioned. We want the huge heal because we're going to be having Adrenaline up all the time. Adrenaline is such a huge part of our build, so that's really important. The instances where you might use this is if you know that you're going to be in a fight where there is going to be loads and loads and loads of conditions. Then I can see you using Mending. If you are running around in a really low level zone, things aren't hitting you very hard, then I would suggest just using a Healing Signet. It makes your life just easier. You're not going to be actually using this heal, but it's going to be passively healing you all the time, and because of that, it just makes life a little bit easier on you. But this is not a very viable pick in most cases in higher level instances. At almost all times, we'll be having 4 Great Justice on our bar. 4 Great Justice is such a powerful utility. It gives us 27 seconds of might in my case, and 8 to 9 seconds of fury really, and it's on a 25-second cooldown. That is really great. The might actually lasts longer than the utility cooldown itself, and if you have other warriors with you, that is incredibly powerful, just stacking up all that might between you guys. If I am solo roaming, or if I know that there is going to be other warriors in the group getting banners, then oftentimes this is what my bar will look like. I'll be using On My Mark to add extra damage to the overall party and to yourself if you're running solo, and Frenzy so you have extra damage just because you're attacking quicker. For those of you who don't know what Frenzy does, it's a quickness. Skills and actions are 50% faster. The downside of this is you take 25% more damage. So knowing when to use this is a little tricky, and just practicing with it and figuring out what your opponent's abilities are is rather important to using this utility skill effectively. And the last one we'll have here in our elite skill is Signet of Rage. The passive is not important at all. Our Adrenaline is going to be taken care of all the time. The big thing is the active, in which we gain Fury, Might, and Swiftness. The swiftness isn't too awfully important unless you're just trying to roam around by yourself or something like that. And then it's really, really nice as the swiftness lasts an incredibly long time. But the main reason we want it is for the might and the fury. Both of those stay around forever. It is so wonderful, and it'll allow you to do so much extra damage because you're going to be having fury, so you're getting extra crits, and that might is just pure extra damage, and that's really just really, really nice. Sometimes we're going to want to switch some of these abilities out. The big one in this case is our elite here, Signet of Rage. We're going to switch it out for Battle Standard instead. The biggest reason is it allows you to revive allies, but the passive you get from having it placed is also extremely useful. You get constant fury, constant might, constant swiftness, and that allows your party to do so much more damage, and in the case that you're reviving someone, it's incredibly useful. Like I said, 4 Great Justice is going to be on your bar almost the entire time you're running a warrior to be the most effective. So we're going to be switching On My Mark to something else and Frenzy to something else. So let's just go over some instances where we'd want to switch to some of these other abilities I have here. You'll note that because I'm an Asura, I have the Asuran racials here. I do not use these. I do not really feel that these are very useful at all, so they're not unlocked. The last one I do not have unlocked is Berserker Stance, and I do not think I will ever unlock it. I am really not interested in it unless I go into some sort of adrenaline burst build, but I don't see that happening anytime in the near future. So, Endure Pain, it allows us to take no damage from attacks for 4 seconds. There's also a Stun Breaker, so anytime where you feel like, well, I need an oh crap button, this is the skill you're going to want to take. Just being able to take no damage when you're so squishy, it can be incredibly useful. Use that. When to use this is up to you. Balance Stance gives you basically 9 seconds of stability. Incredibly useful if for whatever reason you think you're going to be knocked down a lot. The big ones I use this for are when I'm doing the gate in Citadel of Flame Path 1 speedruns. The flamethrower in there can pull you, so just using Battle Stance with that is going to make sure you get your entire combos off quickly and thoroughly. I already explained that Frenzy is going to be on our bar a lot, just for the extra damage, and if banners are taken care of. And if banners are not taken care of, then we're going to want to give our banners to our party, because banners are incredibly useful. My first pick for a banner is actually Banner of Discipline. It gives 170 precision and 15% critical damage. And when you use the banner, so I'm going to pick it up here, you get a number of different skills. Your auto attack is very weak, don't be using this. The main reason for picking it up though is Furious Rally. It gives 9 seconds of fury to your teammates just by using that. Number 3 gives swiftness, just like all banners, and number 4 sprints. Those will be used quite a bit too. If you see some fields around that you know you can use a blast finisher for, then you can use number 5 and plant it in there for a blast finisher really quick. If you're going to be taking both banners, if you feel like you don't really want Frenzy or you're On My Mark, which is up to you, then you might switch out both of those for banners, in which case you might want to go Banner of Discipline for that extra critical damage and precision, which is so very useful on your own build if you're feeling more selfish. Banner of Strength gives 170 power and 170 condition damage. This isn't as useful, in my opinion, as Discipline, as we really want that critical damage, but Banner of Strength gives us a lot of power, equal to 17 stacks of might for your entire team the duration is up. So it's very powerful, but I still prefer Banner of Discipline over that for the critical strike damage. I don't tend to use Banner of Tactics or Banner of Defense, as they're more defensive banners. So with this build, it's not really a great option. If you know you're going to be facing a lot of conditions, then Shake It Off is a good one to use. It breaks a stun and cures one condition on yourself and nearby allies. It's on a fairly short cooldown too. But as I was saying, you'll want to choose Shake It Off versus Mending, in my own opinion, just because you want that higher heal from Healing Surge. But if you feel like there's going to be a lot of conditions, then using Mending and Shake It Off is acceptable. Explain what All Might Mark did. Fear Me induces fear into foes around you. The closer you are, the longer the fear. This is mostly a PvP and world versus world ability. You will not be using this in PvE very much, and as this is a PvE build, you're not going to be using this very much. We have all of our signets here. Most of these signets you're not going to really want to use. The signet you might use if you're running around solo and just feel like a little bit of extra power, but there's better options. For example, just using the banner. It gives you 10 less power, but it gives all of that power to your teammates instead, so it's more useful there. The increased precision is okay, but we would never be using the signet for the adrenaline, and there's plenty of other options, like, again, using the Banner of Discipline for precision. The Signet of Stamina I will actually use quite often. If I know there's going to be an instance where I need to be dodging constantly, for example, I use the Signet of Stamina when running a Raw a lot. For example, Giganticus Lupicus, he has a lot of attacks that can do a lot of damage, and he's constantly attacking you. So having the Signet of Stamina is incredibly useful, so you can constantly keep dodging. The Dolyak Signet here reduces incoming damage, and if you use it, you gain stability for 9 seconds. I don't really know what the numbers are like on this. I don't know how much it reduces incoming damage, but if I need stability, I tend to stick with Balance Stance, as it's on a shorter cooldown and gives you just as much stability and a stun breaker. Last on our bar here are our physical skills. Kick, Throw Bolas, Bull's Charge, and Stomp. You will not be using these. These are bad. If anything, use these in World versus World or PvP. These are not PvE skills whatsoever. These are used for utility and do little to no damage. So stay away from these altogether. Now, I haven't really gone into my weapon choices too much, other than I use Greatsword and then dual axes as well for extra damage. I do also use Sword and Warhorn in certain instances. When I do this, it is mostly for mobility in instances where I need to run past a lot of mobs, in which case you can use 4 for that swiftness, and then 2 for a leap. This gives you a lot of mobility, and it's on a fairly short cooldown for each. You can also use 5 for vigor, so you can dodge quicker as well. Again, this is mostly used for mobility, and I do not use this when actually in combat ever. If there is an instance where there are hard-hitting creatures and I cannot stay in melee range all the time, I will pick up a rifle instead. You'll note that this is also a Berserker rifle, and if you actually notice on it, I'm still using the sigil that came on it. This will be changed very shortly though, so I will probably just use a Ruby Orb again. It's very straightforward and simple, and I know it works very well. If you're going to use rifle, it should be anytime your healing surge is not up. So we'll be using rifle while waiting for the heal up, using 3 constantly, and occasionally the 4 for extra vulnerability. The aim shot is only for the cripple. Don't be using it just because it's off cooldown. If something is chasing you or an ally, then use that movement speed reduction to keep them off of you. And also the rifle butt to keep them away from you if they're in melee range. But hopefully, because we're using a ranged weapon, we're staying far away, and we're using the ranged part of it to keep away from people attacking us. And then as soon as healing surges up, go ahead and use that, switch to your greatsword, and get right back in the fight. The reason for this, if you did not know, melee weapons do a lot, and I mean a lot more damage than ranged weapons. This holds true to all classes. If they have a melee option, it is doing more damage than the ranged weapons. So at any time, if you're running up to, say, your enemy here, this guy with his pretty new wings from Dragon Bash, if you're standing up close using your rifle, you're doing something wrong. Because your weapon swap is on such a short cooldown, I mean, I can understand you running up while it's on cooldown, but you better be switching back to that great sword the moment it's up. It's up every 5 seconds, so be using that. Really, the only time, again, you should be using your rifle is when your heal is on cooldown, and you just need to stay away so you can survive. That is basically the only weapons I do use. I haven't gone too far into practicing with other weapons yet. I do know I have used them all, but haven't really cared for them quite yet. And oh no, my enemy actually hates me now. Go away from me, no. Alright, let's go into the food. For this build, I use 3 main sets of food. You have your Omnom berry bars. This is when I'm farming, when I want that magic find, that gold farm for monsters. I use this on easy instances where I'm going to be clearing it quickly no matter what. Shouldn't be using this for the harder stuff. For killing things quicker and just being a more general use to your team, I use Minotaur Stakes. They give 60 precision and 6% critical damage. There are better options for these stats, but they're much more expensive, and these Minotaur Stakes are extremely cheap. So if you're kind of cheap like me and just want to save some money on that, look into the Minotaur Stakes instead of the more expensive options. If anyone is interested in knowing what those are, I can look that up, but I do not know what they are as of right now. I forgot what they are. If it is a much harder instance, and I am slightly worried about dying with being so squishy, I will be using Peach Pies. It gives me vitality and gives me health every second. I think it's about 60 health every second, but I do not know for sure if that's true. It's somewhere along there. And again, there is one more food type that actually gives you more vitality and more health per second, but it's more expensive again, and this is really, really cheap, and I made them myself, so that's why I use them. Because I felt like some people might not know the full combo you use to get off the most amount of damage on a Berserker warrior like this using Greatsword and dual axes, I felt like I should give you a little quick explanation on how to do that. So, what I would do is I start in axes if I can. If I'm just going to be able to walk right up, I'll use my ranged attack. I'll run up there and use the dual strike for the fury, the cyclone axe for the vulnerability, spin if I feel like there are several enemies. Otherwise, if we're not going to do that, just the throw axe, the dual strike, and then the cyclone axe. Switch over to greatsword, and then pop all 3 of my utilities here and 100 blades, and that will do a lot of damage. If, say, your enemy here is up against a wall, then you use your roller and strike to keep yourself on top of them. If you're staying on top of them because they're up against a wall, it does damage every time you spin. So like say if you got them up against the wall here, or say in the corner, just spinning right here will do a lot of damage every time you spin. I think I've seen that hit upwards of 15k, so if you can stay in place, then that is certainly something you should be doing in your combo. But if you do have them up against the wall, then it's not really worth your time to use Blade Trail, and it's not really worth your time to use Rush. Your auto attacks are going to be more helpful, so just keep doing that. And then also, if your weapon swap is back up, switch back over there, and just do that combo again. And use your whirling axe. By the time that's done, you'll be able to switch back, use your combo again, get the 100 blades off. Well, I hope this video was helpful to you. If you have any questions, then please let me know in the comment section below, and I will get back to you as quickly as possible. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, give me a favorite, subscribe to see more videos like this. I plan on doing on how my builds are for all of my tunes very shortly. I have 5 level 80s in total, so I'll be doing that. So you can look forward to a Thief, an Elementalist build, Guardian, and a Mesmer build very shortly. Again, thank you for watching, guys. Have a good one. So we're at the end of one of my biggest videos I've ever made, a huge guide. This thing spans over 20 minutes long, and it certainly felt like it when editing it. So there was a lot of things I learned while making this. One was that I need to speak up and be more enthusiastic. Hearing myself talk for that long while editing all this, I definitely noticed that I don't have the enthusiasm that I should have had while doing this. So I'm sorry about that. And if it bothered any of you guys, I'm going to be working towards it in the future, so it will be more interesting to listen to me, and so I can listen to myself in editing this. Also, I need to do a little more research before making these videos. I made the annotations in the videos of the things I wasn't sure of, but I need to go over that beforehand, so it's just a little easier for you guys to take in. Should have done that beforehand. Also apologize for that. With these things I learned personally, I need some help from you guys to know what I did wrong or what I should have done better. At the same time, if you guys could tell me what I did right and what you guys really enjoyed, I would really appreciate those comments as well. If you want to leave a comment in the video below or just message me, it works as well. Just let me know what's going on, what you enjoyed, what you didn't like as much, what could have been different, what you liked, could have seen going a different way. Just leave me those things. There were several songs I put in this video. Those links to those songs are in the description below, so go ahead and check those guys out. There's a real difficulty in finding songs I could use because I couldn't use anything with a true copyright on it, so all these songs hopefully don't have a copyright on them. Most of them came from Newgrounds, in which case I just cannot use them to make any profit, and I don't off these videos, so I'm just doing this for the fun of it and whatnot. But if you guys have some song suggestions I could use, remember they can't really have a copyright on them. It's just legal things. Don't send me things from like Daft Punk or from your favorite Britney Spears songs. I don't want it. Please, if you have any suggestions on those songs that don't have copyrights on them, though, I will gladly take them, look at them. And if you want to critique the songs I had in this video, if you didn't like them, if you did like them, so I can figure out what I can use for future videos. I said I need suggestions. I do realize this video was probably a bit longer than most of you guys want to watch in one sitting. I understand that. This was my first take. It was mostly impromptu, so let me know how you would like to take it in for future purposes. Like, say if you just want me to go over my traits and then have like a small gameplay thing separately. I do actually plan on having a small gameplay with this one later, and I did mean to split that up because I didn't want this going over, say, 30 minutes long. It's way too long the way it is, so really had to split that up. But any other suggestions, leave them, as if I haven't asked for that enough already. So thank you guys for watching. See you in the next video.